Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are looking at a truly fascinating framework that asks us to completely change how we see the natural world around us. Instead of looking at a forest, a river, and a farm as completely separate, unrelated things, what if we viewed an entire landscape as a single, highly interconnected ecological machine? Well, that is exactly what integrated watershed management is all about. It's literally a blueprint for survival in some of the most fragile environments on Earth. And today, we're going to unpack exactly how it works.
Think of this agenda as our visual syllabus for today. We're going to break this down step by step. We'll start by decoding exactly what IWM is, look at its core objectives, and explore why it matters globally. Then, we'll take all that theory and apply it to the highly fragile context of Nepal, looking at exactly how they are working to save the Churia watershed.
Okay, let's dive into this first section, decoding watershed management.
Before we can even talk about managing a watershed, we need to know what it is. And I want you to mentally paint a picture of a giant funnel. A watershed is simply an area of land where every single drop of rain that falls over a vast, sweeping area is forced by gravity to drain down to one specific unified point, like a main river or a stream. So what does this actually mean? It means whatever happens at the very top rim of that funnel eventually impacts absolutely everything down at the spout.
Now we add the management part into the mix. Integrated watershed management, or IWM, is all about, you guessed it, integration. We're talking about the holistic, coordinated management of land, water, vegetation, and, this is absolutely crucial, human activities. It's about balancing conservation and utilization by managing the soil, the streams, the forests, and the people all together as one single unit. You simply can't fix a river without looking at the forest next to it, right? And you definitely can't protect the forest without considering the everyday farmers who live there. It's the whole shebang.
Moving right along to Section 2, the core objectives of IWM. Let's see what this actually aims to achieve.
If we look at these 5 written objectives, it's basically a checklist for survival. It shows exactly how stabilizing the physical environment is directly tied to human needs. First up, we control soil erosion and land degradation. Once the soil is physically secure, we can then improve water availability and quality. And hey, when you have stable soil and good water, what happens next? You enhance agricultural productivity. At the exact same time, you're conserving biodiversity. And ultimately, all 4 of those physical and biological goals lead to the 5th most critical human goal, improving local livelihoods. It's a direct sequence from dirt to dollars, so to speak. You reduce poverty by literally fixing the earth.
Which brings us to Section 3, why IWI matters everywhere. Now, what's really interesting here is how clearly these ripple effects map out across 6 major sectors. Environmentally, IMW reduces landslides. For water resources, it enhances groundwater recharge and maintains those really vital dry season stream flows. Agriculturally, it prevents soil loss. But look at the socioeconomic and forestry sectors. By promoting sustainable forestry, we're actually creating local employment and reducing poverty. And for climate change, it enhances carbon sequestration and increases resilience to brutal droughts and floods. It's like a giant puzzle where every piece relies on the others. Human economic needs are deeply, deeply interconnected with the physical stability of the watershed.
Let's pivot from the global macro view and get into Section 4, the fragile Nepal context. This cause and effect breakdown perfectly illustrates the massive challenge Nepal faces, specifically in the fragile Churia region. We have an incredibly dangerous trigger, intense monsoon rainfall pounding down on young, unconsolidated, fragile ground. And the result? It's a cascading disaster. You get severe erosion, rapid runoff, and violent river cutting that floods the flat plains of the Tri below. Plus, you get total groundwater depletion because the water rushes away way too fast before it can even soak into the earth.
And that leads us to a profoundly important quote written here. Problem is not local, it is whole watershed problem. Think about that. When a village in the lower plains is flooded out, the problem didn't start in the village. It started miles away, thousands of feet higher up, where a forest was cut down and the soil washed away. Localized fixes simply won't work for widespread issues like this. The entire connected system absolutely must be treated.
So, how do we fix it? That brings us to Section 5, saving the Chu watershed.
Let's move to and see how this actual execution builds step by step. This is called the ridge-to-valley approach, and it is beautifully logical. You have to treat the highest elevations first to reduce downstream sediment flow. Step 1 is the upper Churia, the ridge areas. Here, you plant trees and dig contour trenches to physically catch the rain. Step 2 is the mid-slope, where you use bioengineering, things like planting specific deep-rooted grasses and agroforestry to stabilize landslide-prone areas. Finally, step 3 is downstream in the foothills. Because you've already slowed the water down up top, you can now effectively build check dams and river training structures to manage whatever sediment is left over. You work top to bottom.
Zooming in on specific tactics, look at how we handle water and forests. Teams build recharge ponds and percolation pits. Now, these aren't just muddy puddles. They are strategically engineered depressions that literally force runoff water to stop, sink into the ground, and recharge the spring sheds below. This solves critical water scarcity for local settlements. At the same time, they're restoring native cell-dominated forests, protecting native wildlife corridors, and aggressively weeding out invasive species like Macania. Why? Because native plants are just significantly better at holding the native soil together.
But remember, IWM isn't just about plants and rocks, it's about people. While engineers use wire mesh gabion walls to stop gullies from washing away, the social side is equally vital. Enter the Community Forest User Groups, or CFUGs. This highlights the truly participatory feature of IWM. If locals are cutting down the forest just to survive, you don't just ban them from the forest, you empower them. By developing alternative livelihoods like ecotourism or selling non-timber forest products, you give locals an income that actually relies on keeping the forest healthy. That immediately takes the devastating pressure off the trees.
And then, of course, there's the regulatory side of the blueprint. As it's written here, you can plant all the bamboo you want, but if an excavator comes in the very next day, it's game over. So IWM implements scientific zoning for sand and gravel extraction. It strictly regulates sustainable extraction limits and shuts down rampant, illegal riverbed mining. This strict administrative control is an absolute must to prevent total land degradation.
We've seen how viewing land, water, forests, and people as one integrated machine can literally save a landscape from washing away. It's an incredible, structured blueprint for environmental survival. But before we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with this provocative thought to consider right where you are sitting. If a single watershed connects the mountaintops all the way to the valleys, how secure is the watershed supplying your own community? Take a moment to think about where your water actually comes from and what might be happening upstream. Thanks for joining me to explore this blueprint, and I'll catch you in the next one.